Today we're talking about how to play Hurt by Johnny Cash in 5 levels. Now, first things first, if you want a normal tutorial for how to play this song, I can't recommend enough checking out Marty Schwartz's video. It's excellent. My goal in this video is actually not to teach you how to play Hurt on guitar, but rather how to play guitar by using the song Hurt. We're totally going to learn how to play the song, but the emphasis is going to be on what guitar players at 5 different skill levels can take away from this song that makes them better musicians in general and not just better practitioners of this tune particularly. To be honest, by disguising this guitar lesson as a song tutorial, I'm sort of weaponizing your interest in this song against you in order to trick you into becoming a better guitarist. So if that's clickbait and you hate me, you know what? Fair. But if you're ready for the deceptive education to begin, let's get going. Level 1 is oriented toward absolute beginners. Now, if you're an absolute beginner and you chose Hurt as your first song to learn how to play, then I can probably make a pretty good guess as to why you picked up a guitar in the first place. And let me tell you, man, she's not coming back. But you have me now, and I'm prettier than her anyway, so let's get started. To play the opening riff is really simple. It really just involves 3 chords in the correct picking pattern. The chords we need here are A minor, C major, and D major. The picking pattern is really straightforward. We just pick the lowest 2 notes of each chord and then strike the whole chord. So for A minor, we just hit the notes on the A string and the D string and then the whole chord. Same thing for C major, A string, D string, then the whole chord. Then for D major, we still pick the lowest 2 notes, but because you don't play the A string in a D major chord, the lowest 2 notes are on the D string and the G string. And then you just circle back to A minor. So playing the opening riff is awesome and it's super fun, but like I said before, the operative question of this video is what can you get out of this that'll make you a better player in general? I think it really comes down to 2 things. Number 1 are the chords that we talked about here. A minor, C major, and D major are not just 3 random chords that Johnny Cash, or originally I guess Trent Reznor, pulled out of thin air. You need to know these because you are going to see them all the time. As a quick tangent, A minor, C, and D, along with A major, E minor, and G, are the 7 essential open chords that every beginner should learn as sort of their first starter pack of chords. I made a video about how to play all 7 of these chords, so go check that out. Doesn't really have anything to do with this song, but like I said here, I'm trying to teach you guitar, so I hope you can appreciate the tangent. The second thing you can get out of this level is learning to use a simple song like this as a vehicle to practice the fundamentals. When you first start on guitar, everybody immediately wants to jump into the really complex, really flashy stuff, but there's a lot of fundamentals like how to hold the pick, how to fret a note, how to strum a chord that you've got to learn. It's simply more fun and you are therefore more likely to practice these fundamentals through a song that you like rather than through boring exercises. So if you pick a simple song like this and you develop your fundamental skills enough, you should reach level 2. This level is oriented toward the late beginner, early intermediate guitar player. By this point, your skills are definitely advancing, and you've achieved this by bravely ignoring your family and friends when they tell you to stop making all that racket with your guitar. It might be a bummer right now, but these people are officially your haters, and you're going to need these stories of adversity to include in your tell-all autobiography when you're a fading rock star. In this level, we're going to learn how to play the chorus. So like a lot of songs, Hurt has 2 guitar parts. There's the main riff, which is played in the intro and throughout the verse, but there's also the chorus. Let's dive into it and then I'll explain the takeaways. So to play the chorus, we need some chords and some rhythm. I'll start by showing you the chords. The chords that we're going to use here are A minor, F, C, and G. Now, obviously we've already talked about A minor and C in the intro. At this level of skill, you've probably seen G before. The one I want to call special attention to is F. F major, I should say. F is a kind of chord called a bar chord. So unlike the open chords we've been playing thus far that involve open strings as a part of the chord, in F, every single note is fretted. Now, you might have encountered F before, and maybe you've seen it played like this, or maybe like this. And those are okay, but in this video I really want to show you the traditional proper way to play F because your skill in playing this bar chord will translate to other bar chords. The first thing you got to do is take your first finger and put it on the first fret of every single string. This is called making a bar. This will be hard at first. It's kind of a feat of hand strength. Then you take your remaining fingers and add the chord shape on top of that bar. So that explains the chords we need, but what about the rhythm? The rhythm isn't overly complex, but there are two variations of it, so stick with me here. The good news is that every time we play a chord in the chorus, we're going to play it for 4 beats. Groups of 4 beats are sometimes called bars or a measure. The best part of all of it is that the strumming pattern is remarkably simple. It's just 1 strum per beat. The first variation is going to be 4 beats of A minor, then 4 beats of F major, then 4 beats of C, and then G. The second variation, starting on the lyric "and you can have it all," starts with 4 beats of A minor, then it goes to F for a bar, and then G for a bar, and then another bar of G, and then the same thing, A minor, F, G, all for 1 bar, and then we start over with the main riff. So starting at the beginning of the chorus, it would be this: A minor, 2, 3, 4, F, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4, G, new variation coming up. A minor, 2, 3, 4, F, 2, 3, 4, right to G, 2, 3, 4, 2, another bar. A minor, 2, 3, 4, F, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4. So that's the chorus. Try playing along with the original recording to really get it down. Alright, so the takeaways from level 2 are again twofold. Number 1 is expanding your chord vocabulary by exposing you to bar chords. By learning to play F major, we learned one of the 4 essential bar chord shapes that you need to know as an intermediate guitar player. We don't use the other 3 in this song, but I'm trying to teach you more than just this song, and I'm not going to keep explaining that. So just remember it from now on. I'm sorry for getting mad. I calmed myself down by remembering the other valuable takeaway from this level, which is that we just learned to play a song all the way through. So many beginner guitar players sort of look up one day after playing for a while and realize that they can play very few, if any, songs all the way through. I know for myself, I learned a lot of main riffs and intros, but whole songs generally kind of eluded me. So hopefully by spending a whole level on the chorus, I communicated the importance of this point. But now that you can play the whole song from beginning to end, what's next? Level 3 is intended for players right smack dab in the middle of intermediate land. At this level, you're getting to be really pretty decent. You might even be known locally as an up-and-coming musician. But be wary, players at this skill level often develop a confidence that emboldens them to post constantly on social media about their musical pursuits, often with the caption, "Big things comin'." Level 3 is all about rhythm. The number 1 problem that intermediate players across the board are challenged with is an underdeveloped sense of rhythm. Now you might be thinking, I'm not bad at rhythm, but the truth is, unless you've deliberately and regularly practiced rhythm, or you're just blessed by the music gods, then you probably kind of suck at rhythm. And I'm not just trying to say that you suck, but if I don't tell you, nobody else, except for Brandon Dion, will. So let's talk about how to count music properly, and then we'll apply it to the song. So, like I mentioned in the previous level, a group of 4 beats is called a measure or a bar. This is the case for the most common time signature, which is 4/4 time. Luckily for us, most songs, including Hurt, are in 4/4 time. When you do the standard 4 count that we all know, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're counting what's called quarter notes. And it kind of makes sense, 4 1/4, there's 4 quarter notes per measure, all that is easy to track with. In slow songs, like this one, it can be easy to get off beat and not even realize it because, unlike fast songs where the beats are a nice, constant, successive click, in slow songs, the beats are definitionally further apart. So to some degree, you kind of have to guess, or most people try to feel where the beat should go. But high-level musicians don't just guess or try to feel where the beat should go. They have a nice successive click in their head at all times. But how do you do this in a slow song where there's just not that many beats? They're just spread further apart. The answer is that when we're counting in our head, which you should be doing, we subdivide the quarter notes further into eighth notes. In the same way that there's 4 quarter notes in every measure, there are 8 eighth notes in every measure. Now, we don't speed up the song to count like this. We're just taking the quarter note and counting that as 2 notes. But how do we do that in our head? Instead of just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, like we would for quarter notes, you add another auditory cue in your head as you're counting. You add the word and. So to count a measure of eighth notes would be 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and. It's the same speed because the 1, 2, 3, and the 4 are landing in the same spot. You're just able to keep up with it better because it's a more constant roll. You know, you're adding notes to make it more even. Applying this to the song is really simple, especially in the chorus where the rhythm is just quarter notes. Obviously, you should still play it as quarter notes, but in your head, you should count eighth notes. I'll count out loud so that you can see what I'm talking about. It should be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. To play the main riff, you actually have to employ the eighth notes that we were talking about. Whereas before, you were probably just feeling the rhythm out. Now, you should play it and count it like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Obviously, the takeaway from this level is that you should learn to count rhythm like a big kid. Alright, level 4. I'm speaking now to the upper intermediate, even the advanced players among us. It's hard not to feel like a rock star at this level, and to be honest, you've probably started looking the part. In fact, if you're a guitar player on this level, you probably wear enough leather products on a daily basis to have made a measurable impact on the worldwide bovine population. Now, you might be wondering what's left to learn in level 4. We can play the whole song, and we can play it with proper rhythm. In this level, we're going to explore adding the fine details to the song. One of the things that guitar players at this skill level bump into is the fact that even though you can play the song well, it still feels like there's a gap between what you're doing and what's happening on the record. And yes, of course, there is certainly a magic to the original recording that Johnny Cash, Rick Rubin, Mike Campbell, Smokey Hormel, Ben Montench, and everybody else who worked on the record created, and that we can't recreate. But it's not like music, including this song, is some unknowable thing. The details can be studied. Some of the things that contribute to the feel of the song can be quantified. So let's go ahead and explore the fine details. In this level, I want to show you 3 details you can add to your performance of this song, and then give you some advice you can use to add details not only to this song, but to other songs that you want to learn. This is how we've been playing the main riff until this point. If you don't know, on the original recording, there's actually 2 guitars being played, and before too long, a piano comes in. Between all the instrumentalists, you can hear that there's another note being added to this main riff. Basically, when you're on the C chord, after you strike the whole chord, you come back and hit the D string. And when you go to the D chord, after you strike the whole chord, you come back to the G string. So the whole riff, including these 2 extra notes, should sound like this. Now, like I said, depending on where you're at in the song, that extra note is played either by the second guitar part or by the piano, but it's important to add that into your own performance if you're going to be performing the song by yourself. Without it, you're kind of missing a key element. Another detail I like to point out is that there is what's called a pedal note or a drone in the chorus. A pedal note or a drone is a note that's held consistently throughout a certain duration of a song, no matter what's going on with the chord changes. In the case of this song, there is a high G that is held throughout the chorus. You can play it on the 3rd fret of the high E string. If you listen to the original recording of the chorus, we can hear this. We're not just playing A minor and then F, and I know I'm doing the cheater version of F here, but you'll see why in a second, and then C, and then G. We're playing A minor with that G on top. You're playing F with that G on top. And by the way, this is why I'm playing the cheater version, so I have my 4th finger freed up to hit that note. During the C, that note is there. And obviously that note is just a regular part of the G chord. Should sound something like this. This is another one of those details that's kind of shared between the 2 guitars, but when you're performing with just one guitar, again, it's essential to get this right. The final detail I want to point out is sort of a more overarching thing that applies to the whole song, but that's that you always want to try to play with very exaggerated dynamics. Dynamics just refers to how loud or soft something is, and maybe a better way to think about it is how intense something is played. You can hear throughout the chorus of this song that it's getting louder, it's getting more intense, and then on the main riff, on the verse, they pull back quite a bit. So starting at the end of the chorus, I'm going to play A minor, F, and G, and then you're going to see how much I pull back when I come around to the main riff. Now, the thing I'm trying to convey by showing you all three of these details is that none of this is magic. All three of these details contribute to the overall feel of the song, and when we can't play them, it's so easy to chalk that up to just, the magic of the original artists. In reality, of course these artists are talented, but they're not magicians. These things are learnable, and most importantly, you can hear them. I know that when you're listening to the record, you can hear these things. You might be more aware of them now that I pointed them out, but I want you to see that, when you're listening to the record, you can hear those extra notes. You can hear the dynamics going up and coming down. All of this speaks to the way that you can continue to add details to this song and to other songs that you want to learn to play. And that is, you've got to learn to rely on your own ear. Every now and again, you might come across a really in-depth masterpiece of a guitar lesson that points out a lot of these details, like Paul David's video on this song. But if you want to learn all the songs that you want to learn, you can't rely on Paul David's to make a really great breakdown of every song that you like. You've got to learn to use your ear and hear these things for yourself and be able to apply them to your playing. So that's the takeaway for level 4. Learn the details. It's not magic, you can do it, and learn to rely on your ear. But what could possibly be left for level 5? In level 5, to say that this is for the truly advanced guitar players doesn't even begin to cover it. At this level, you're so good at guitar that you're barely human anymore. Your immense skill is spilling over into other areas besides guitar playing. Sure, you can shred, but somehow you can also calculate projectile motions in your head. You can move small objects with your mind. You can even solve the triangle puzzle thing at Cracker Barrel. Level 5 is going to be a music theory breakdown of how this song works. In levels 1 through 4, I like to think we cover just about everything you need to know to play this song at a very high level. But the highest level of musicianship is being able to understand how a song works under the hood. So let's dive in. One of the highest pieces of praise I think you can give any song is that it sounds like what it means. So even if you didn't know the lyrics of this song, just by hearing the instrumental, you would be able to tell that this song is about saying goodbye or some kind of feeling of defeat. I think a great place to start when it comes to understanding why this is analyzing chord function. Chord function, put simply, is just the idea that every chord has a job to do, and each chord change can communicate a certain feeling. We can sort of take the principle that a chord all by itself doesn't mean much. I'll play A minor here. Doesn't make you feel much of anything. Maybe it makes you feel a little sad because it's a minor chord, but all by itself, it sort of lacks meaning. When we switch to another chord, say for example C major, like we do in the opening riff, well, now that sort of feels like something. I can't do it right now because you've probably still got A minor in your head a little bit, but if I could cleanse the palate of your ear and just play C major, we would probably agree again that it doesn't mean much on its own. But when we go to C major from A minor, sort of has a certain feeling to it. To understand this, let's take a look at the notes that are in each of those chords. A minor is made up of an A, and a C, and an E. C major is made up of a C, an E, and a G. So you can tell just by the notes that these are two very similar chords. They share 2 out of each of their 3 notes after all. Because when we switch to C major from A minor, you still kind of have A minor in your ear, your mind hears all the tension between those notes, which again are very similar but not quite exactly the same. This kind of makes it feel like A minor is home. That's where we started after all. And then when we go to C major, it's almost like we're trying to go somewhere, but we can't quite, because it still pretty much feels like home. The next chord in the intro is D major. And with the change from C to D, it feels almost like we might be able to overcome our challenge of not being able to go anywhere. We started on A minor, which was home, went to C, which was a little different, but still pretty much felt like home. With D, it's almost like we finally have some movement, but then we go right back to A minor, and it feels like we haven't gone anywhere. I think this contributes to this song's feeling of defeat. And even though you might not agree with me that A minor feels like home, and C feels kinda like home, and then D feels like movement, just to go home again, there's no denying that there is a certain feeling to the changing of these chords. That's what I want to point out in this level. To fully understand this concept, it would take hours and hours of lecture, but I just want you to start thinking about this when it comes to understanding why certain songs make you feel a certain way. If you can understand how this works, you might be able to understand how other songs work. You might be able to understand how certain chords in your own compositions work. If you don't believe me, there is technical study behind all of this. You could say that we're in the key of A minor or A aeolian here. A minor is the 1 chord. C is the major 3 chord. D is actually an example of modal interchange because that's not in the key of A aeolian. And if you are interested in that, I'll put that explanation on the screen right now. But for the rest of us, I just want to emphasize that the important thing to take away here is the fact that it's not chords themselves that create most of the feeling, it's the changing between chords. And this changing of the chords can be studied and understood. When I was a beginner, I thought that songwriting and composition could pretty much only be understood through vibe, and that, these chords just happen to work well together, and that's not the case. There are rules that govern and predict not only chord changes, but everything in music. And if you learn these rules and come to understand how to both use them and break them, you can become a much more complete musician. If you're interested in this topic and you're interested in music theory, then you're pretty much in the right place. Over time, I'm going to make more and more videos on this kind of thing. But for now, go ahead and explore the topics of harmonizing the major scale, the Nashville number system, explore modes, and intervals. I think that's probably a pretty good place to start when it comes to deeply understanding this stuff. So there you go, guys. That's how you play Hurt in 5 levels. At the beginning of the video, I said that if you wanted a normal tutorial, go check out Marty Schwartz's video. And I'm serious. Marty Schwartz and Carl Brown and a couple other creators are right at the top of the game when it comes to teaching song tutorials. And they're really good, and I don't want to compete with them. I just wanted to do something a little different with this video. I think on YouTube, it's really hard to find these videos that are like deep dives into a certain song where you can really learn a lot about guitar just through the lens of a song, and I thought that this song would be a great vehicle for that. As a channel, I'm not trying to build a huge library of song tutorials. I'm trying to build a really great system for learning guitar, and I think that songs are absolutely a part of that, but I think you have to take a certain approach to it, and hopefully I've kind of laid that out in this video. After all, songs are a much more fun way to improve a guitar rather than just focusing on like exercises and lecturing to you about certain concepts. So I hope you liked it, and as always, thank you for watching.